Patrick and Carol have been members of the Reno Photo Club since 2012. The competitions have helped them improve their photography immensely. They belong to the North American Nature Photographers Association, the NANPA, and have entered images in their annual competition that draws over 3,000 entries. Patrick won Best of Show, Mammals Division, in 2017. Carol placed an image in the top 10 in a previous year, and in the 2018 competition they placed 4 images in the top 100.
Image has excellent sharpness and good tonal range. It is well framed and makes good use of the diagonal line of the ship and the sail. Good placement of boat in the frame, with the boat moving into the frame and a good amount of space on the right for the boat to move into. The water and sky are split nearly 50-50, which often is undesirable, but in this case does not detract since the diagonal line offsets it. Good tonal range, detail, and sharpness. Good placement in scene. I like that the subject appears to be looking toward the camera and the apparent motion of his hands. We offer the following possible improvements. Perhaps crop off a little of the bottom to eliminate the shadow line. Lighten the person and the right side of the image. Darken the highlights on the bottom of the shoe and bring down the highlight on the glasses. The reflection on the glasses bug me. Should be a great reflection or none, and it would be good to see the eyes to better engage the viewer. Good capture with good sharpness and tonal range. Tells a strong story of the relationship between man and birds. I like the man being off-center. Cropped a little too tight on top, it would be good to have just a little more room above his head. Patrick suggests cropping in on the right just past the 2 birds next to the briefcase, but Carol likes it as is. It's nice to have sunbeams in a forest. Nice feeling of misty trees. Good tonal range and sharpness. Try bringing out the beam effect more by playing with contrast, whites and blacks. We both suggested cropping in on the right to perhaps eliminate the right-hand tree, or at least the tiny light slice in the upper right corner. I see green brush. Is this allowed in monochrome? Interesting and pleasant image and reflection with a nature story of bird wading. It appears the bird's head has been lightened, but the head is still lacking in detail and sharpness. The reflection has a line going through the eye that bothers me. We suggest cropping 1.5 inches on the left to eliminate some distracting elements. The lighting is difficult. It appears backlit, and I think you need more detail in the bird, or it needs to be completely silhouetted. The bird is partly obscured by grass, which diminishes the image's impact. Try changing your position, or wait until the bird moves into more open water. You may have to wait until another day. Interesting winter scene showing heavy snow. Exposed well with detail in snow. The low side lighting nicely brings out the texture of the snow. There is no clear center of interest. It would be better if the tree on the left was lit. Your matting presentation needs some work and needs to be mounted more securely. Take a look at the other images that were submitted for insight on better matting presentation. Beautifully lit and composed. Good spacing on all four sides between subjects and edge of frame. The soft lighting brings out the colors nicely. Excellent presentation with placement of items. Good use of lighting. I would suggest adding about half a stop of light, but try to eliminate the hot spots on the left two apples, which left those areas without detail. Good opportunity here. Lovely lighting and pastel colors make this look almost like a painting. I suggest cropping about 1 inch off the right side to eliminate the bricks drawing the eye to the corner and the distracting building edge. Try cropping in on the right and up slightly on the bottom. Darken the palm shadows to make a more dynamic contrast between light and dark. This image has good impact. It's hard to tell if this is a snapshot or a painting. It has me looking for brush strokes. We both like this. The attractive soft colors and painterly effect are appealing. We suggest cropping out the vertical brass poles on the right and the left. Nice scenic with good placement of tree to anchor the image. Time of day is important to get lighting that makes an impact. Try earlier or later in the day for lighting that is less flat. Pretty good middle and background subject. Try a different foreground. You have some clouds in the sky which add to the image. Try to bring them out more, perhaps more contrast in that area. The image seems to have a yellowish cast. Try bumping up the blue on the yellow-blue slider. Your matting presentation needs some work. Look at the other images that were submitted for insight on better matting presentation. Good story of the flame filling a balloon envelope, sharp with good exposure. The center man, with his back to me, keeps my eye going to the bright white-gray hair. The other man is too tightly cropped in the corner and has a white tag coming out of his eye. Crop in on the right to eliminate the distracting label on the balloon. If possible, add more to the lower left. The image is dark. You might try lightening it up. Try to draw more attention to the flame, although that's hard when the rope is competing for the same space. The image does not fill the matting opening at the top and the bottom. A pleasing image showing a nice variety of palm leaves. Good dynamic range and placement in frame. Tone down highlights slightly. I'd suggest even more depth of field, like F16 or F22 if you haven't already used that. to get more of the leaf at the bottom left sharp. A more defined center of interest would have generated a higher score. Matting presentation was good. Interesting image, good tonal range. We like the detail and how it climbs up different levels and in a diagonal. There's motion blur that is tough to avoid without using a rock-solid tripod, often not allowed in buildings. Less than half the image appears sharp. For example, the chain in front could be sharper. Try a tripod and stopping down the aperture more to increase depth of field and make more of it in focus. Love this. Excellent placement of rocks in frame, good sharpness and details. Good dynamic range and depth of field. The clouds add interest. I like that the left back edge of the top rock doesn't touch the horizon. You have placed the elements well. Great detail in image down to the lichen on the rocks. Well done. Suggest making it a bit lighter. Good image to show off an old castle. It's great to have clouds. That really adds impact. Technically good image. It's a good choice for black and white, which minimized the impact of the people and emphasizes the castle. Excellent sharpness, detail, and contrast. Beautiful winter scene that puts me there. It looks cold. The image seems a bit dark. The snow appears gray when it should be white. Adding contrast might make it pop more. Try to reduce some of the gray cast, perhaps by bringing up the white highlights. We like the winter scene with snow-covered rose surface. Excellent leading lines with S-turns that lead you into the image. Reduce the blue-gray cast caused by allowing the camera to select the exposure. Open the exposure 1.5 stops to make the snow white. I feel like I want to see the mountains better. They seem to be mostly in the shade, but some lightning would help in the shadows, and perhaps more contrast would also help. Nice scene with lots of detail. You handled the light from the window well. If possible, add a bit more light on the sewing machine to see more detail. It was a well-handled exposure to get the outside and the room interior lit. I'd move left or right so the left edge of the sewing machine doesn't line up with the window frame. Attractive mounting, but the picture needs to be secured better. Nice image. Looks like an old image from the past. I like the soft edges, giving a nostalgic feeling. Good dynamic range. excellent sharpness. Perhaps add some contrast to the SO sign, which appears washed out and too bright. It's cropped too tight on the truck rear tire fender. I suggest cropping out the pole on the right. This would score higher in softer light. The strong lighting leaves significant areas of featureless darks. You had a good opportunity here showing an aging structure. Well framed, but the exposure is off. It seems dark and has a purple-gray cast, made more noticeable by the matte's gray color. I feel like I want to see more of the building. The picture does not fit in the matting on the right and left sides where there are white edges showing. Nice winter scene with cabin. Nicely composed. The deep shadows hide details on the front of the building. The exposure is well handled. Wonder how it would look with less foreground and more mountains. Attractive matting complements the picture, but it needs to be more securely mounted. The image is too small on the top and the bottom for the matting. Beautiful soft lighting and colors. Good exposure for this pleasing image, which is composed well. I like the arch. Good choice to keep it off balance by not showing the whole arch. Framing a little tight at the top. Good image, nice and crisp by using fast shutter speed. Love the churning water. Excellent sharpness. Good placement in frame. Good job using high enough shutter speed to mostly freeze the wings. Next opportunity like this, consider increasing the shutter speed even more to 1/6,000th or 1/8,000th if possible to capture more water detail. That's Patrick's recommendation. I'm not sure I agree. Some white highlights appear blown out. For white birds in sun, you typically have to underexpose nearly 2 stops to avoid blown highlights. I'd score this higher if the wings were outspread, although I know how hard it is to catch this moment. We can only try. Love this. The beautiful twisting tree trunks competing for light and the path into the image. The tiny person makes the image. Exposed well with lots of detail. The metallic paper choice enhances the green leaves. The lone dog waiting for a lone person on the road, as if to say, "Hurry up, let's go." The matting adds to the beautiful presentation. Note that the mat has slipped on the edge. Nice scene of interesting church interior. As inside church scenes go, you have controlled the highlights and shadows very well. Good colors and exposure, excellent sharpness and depth of field. Plenty of detail throughout. Well done. You do have some noise showing up in the shadows and in back right of man's jacket. Good assortment of tools, good color and tone, excellent sharpness and good exposure. Lighting is handled well. The light doorway in the upper right is distracting. I suggest cropping it out. The bright wood handle on the left is also distracting. Either tone it down, or better yet, remove the object before photographing the scene. Good opportunity to be there with wildlife. Good tone and color. The image is split with the waterway bearing right and the deer looking left. Try a different angle and view to show better balance of the image. I like the peaceful feel of this image. Good sharpness, exposure, and depth of field. Good placement of the stream bank so it enters at the lower right corner. Suggest straightening the horizon. It would have more impact if the deer was looking into the scene, although this is obviously beyond the control of the photographer. Which way is up? The maker has done some work and the image is pleasing to look at. The bold colors make this a striking image. Question: did the maker draw the original image used to create this? If so, great work on the image. If not, this could be disqualified since all work needs to be by the maker. A side note that the mat has slipped. Lovely Sierra scene. The depth of field and sharpness are handled well. The highlights and clouds are blown out. The tree in the right foreground is distracting. Would it have been possible to get under it and pull back the limbs, eliminating them from the image? Overall, the scene is a bit busy. The stream is the main subject, but it takes up only a small part of the frame, so the impact is diluted. Find a way to make the stream a bigger part of the image and exclude some of the branches on the right that don't add much to the picture. It's nice to be so close to wild horses. This is a nice, intimate portrait. The framing is well done. Image needs more depth of field and sharpness. With a close-up like this, you want to see every eyelash and hair detail. The image seems a tad dark. I feel like I need to see more of the foal, especially his nose. I only know that he is nursing from the title. Creative framing idea. Nice work. A little more sharpness on the foreground is needed. Eliminate the house and the car in the foreground by trying a different angle. I suggest moving a bit to the left to center the school building in the opening. This would keep the right side of the building from overlapping the foreground and eliminate some of the unimportant objects to the left of the school. Good timing capturing the moth, which is in a good position. The highlights seem burned out. Try stopping down your exposure. It's tough due to the contrasty lighting. The image needs to be sharper, always a challenge with moving subjects. I'm afraid your shutter speed was too slow to get a crisp capture. Next time, increase the shutter speed and increase your depth of field. You need to get the whole image sharp and possibly the moth and the flower. I suggest cropping a little on the left to eliminate unneeded green area and draw more attention to the moth.